Hello, and welcome to the Worst Movie Podcast. I'm Ade.
And I'm Aaron. And this is a podcast where we're going to watch some really bad movies and maybe find something good.
And we're just a couple of amateur podcasters who love to watch movies and love to talk about them. Hope you enjoy this episode. Okay, today we are going to talk about the movie Cats. All month long, we're talking about modern messes. That's the theme for the month. And so we're covering movies that have come out in the past few years and received a lot of notorious feedback for how bad the movie was. And Cats was certainly a controversial movie. It came out in 2019, directed by Tom Hooper and starring a stellar cast: Taylor Swift, Idris Elba, Dame Judi Dench, James Corden, Jason Derulo, Jennifer Hudson, Sir Ian McKellen, Rebel Wilson. It's currently streaming on Netflix. Aaron, why don't you give us a quick synopsis of the movie?
This movie is Victoria, a young white cat, is abandoned by her owner in the streets of London in the middle of the night. Witnessing this, a group of alley cats introduce themselves as the Jellicles. Mr. Mistopheles, Monkus Trap, Cassandra, and Demeter take Victoria under their wing and show her the world of the Jellicles as they prepare for the Jellicle Ball, an annual ceremony where cats compete to be chosen to ascend to the Heaviside layer and be granted a new life.
In case it's not clear, this movie is based on the famous musical Cats that ran on Broadway for 18 years. It's near identical to the Broadway production, with the exception of one new song, I believe, and then some small changes to other songs, but largely it's the same as the Broadway production. Is that what you understood?
Yeah, I believe that the role of Victoria was expanded in the movie. I don't think that they had songs for that character specifically in the play, but they do in the movie. So I think they expanded on that role.
She sings a song that was written by Taylor Swift for the movie. So the movie came out, like I said, in 2019, currently sits at 19% on Rotten Tomatoes. On Letterboxd, it has a 1.3 average, which is lower than Madam Web that we covered last time. It earned $75 million in the box office for a net loss of about $113 million. So it lost a lot of money. What's your relationship to Cats, the musical or the IP? Did you ever see this performed on Broadway or off Broadway?
I saw the video, the VHS that came out of the live Broadway play in the 90s. I watched it for like a music class.
Okay.
I don't remember it. I remember it being weird, but I wasn't into Cats as a 12, 13-year-old boy. So yeah, I was not into it at that time.
Is there a name for people who are really into the musical Cats, cat heads?
I don't know. Maybe
cat
there
ladies?
Should be. Yeah.
So you weren't a cat lady.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't think I may have seen clips of it before, but before I watched this movie for this podcast, I don't think I'd ever seen the production. I was familiar with Cats.
Yeah.
And have seen pictures of the production, but I knew nothing about it really going into this.
Are you into musicals as a genre?
That's a good question. I am not really into musicals. I would say I probably skew below average in terms of enjoying musicals. I saw Crazy for You on Broadway. Loved it. I loved Hamilton. I loved Book of Mormon. So
Yeah.
there's several musicals that I've seen that I absolutely loved, but I would say most of the musicals I saw just didn't really get into it. I'm not into quote unquote stereotypical Broadway musical music.
Yeah.
What about you?
I think I'm more of an enjoyer than that.
Yeah.
Not by much. So there are musicals that I liked. I like Rent, Producers, Hamilton. I even like the old like Elvis musical movies.
Yeah.
So I like music and I like theater and movies, but it's not like a primary genre for me. So there's a lot of staples in that genre that I haven't seen.
Yeah.
But I do enjoy them generally.
Yeah, I'm certainly not an aficionado. I'm not a hater either, but I will
Yeah.
say I do get turned off by the stereotype of people just breaking into song to describe the plot of a movie. And so,
You're not going
yeah.
to like musicals that much then, probably.
Well, yeah. I mean, I will admit I was kind of dreading watching this movie. I felt like this would not be for me because it didn't really appeal to me in terms of its marketing. And I think even the musicals I mentioned that I liked, I feel like a strong comedic hook or music that more aligned with the genre that I'm into probably is what pulled me into those musicals more so than your typical Broadway production.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, so this should be an interesting discussion. Before we jump into the movie, I always give a spoiler alert, and we're going to spoil what happens in this movie. I will say the musical is over 40 years old, so I think by now we probably don't need to send a spoiler alert. And also, it really isn't a very plot driven movie. Not
Right.
not a lot happens. So, but in any regard, spoiler alert. So we start off, as you said in the synopsis, a cat is dropped off in the streets of London, and we break into the first song, Jellicle Cats. Usually I'll ask you to describe what happens during this scene. Not much happens, but maybe you can kind of set the stage of what we're witnessing and yeah, what is what is a Jellicle cat, Aaron?
I couldn't tell you. I guess they're street cats in
Yeah.
London. They're not all street cats though, right? There's
Oh,
some that live in homes, but I think it's maybe a type of character in a cat,
you're
possibly.
you're asking back a question that I don't know the answer to.
Yeah, so this first part of the movie is really just introduction to all of the players. We get to see all the different types of cats and their personalities, and they're all meeting Victoria, this abandoned cat, for the first time in the streets. And there's lots of different types of cats. There's like the cat burglars and the fat cats and the lazy ones and the like magical sneaky ones. There's all sorts of different cats, but yeah, I couldn't tell you what a Jellicle cat honestly is. It's just it's a London cat, I guess.
Yeah, my first note really big was WTF is a Jellicle cat. They break into the song and they say the word Jellicle so many times that I'm like, is this a word that I should know? Should I be familiar with what a Jellicle cat is?
The way that I took it was Jellicle cat displays certain types of personality traits.
Okay. Yeah. And like you said, so 15 minutes into this, I was like, I do not know if I can watch the rest of this movie because it's just them singing about what Jellicle cats are. And then the first four songs, if I'm not mistaken, are just different cats telling you who they are.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter because none of those cats have any real bearing later on in the story. Am I wrong? Am I wrong? why
I
why do we spend 20 minutes getting to know the personal lives of these cats only for them to disappear?
yeah, I wouldn't say you're wrong about that.
Okay.
Should we talk about like what the meaning of this play is up at the top? Like,
Maybe I don't know if that'll help me. I'm sure there are listeners here who love
yeah, I
the
think we're
musical
gonna make
cats.
a lot of people upset with this podcast.
I mean, it's probably the wrong way to think about this. It's not to really analyze any particular lyrics or plot points. I mean, we can talk about what the musical means, but yeah, since you brought it up, why don't you tell me what this means?
So I think that there's two competing camps or thoughts with this play and the movie, where it's based on poems that just seem to be funny poems about cats that T.S. Eliot knows in his life or sees in the streets of London or whatever it is. So it just seems to be based on funny poems about cats and their imaginary lives. But within the play itself, there are some themes that were written into it that are kind of along the lines of redemption or acceptance, community, remembrance, things like that that is written into it. But I don't know that I wouldn't say it's about those things. I think it really is just a play about cats. And so a lot of the substance of this play is just singing about cats doing funny things and like
Yeah.
what they must get up to in the middle of the night when they're out running the streets of London.
Yeah. And for what it's worth, I appreciate that interpretation more than I do the interpretation about some lofty meeting around life and death, because ultimately it's not that deep in terms of what it says about those things.
Right.
So yeah, I could see a world where I enjoy watching a fat cat roll around the stage and sing about how she's fat and lazy. And yeah, that could be funny. I think. Okay, so I'm dancing around. It's going to be clear come analysis time what each of us think about this movie, I think, but I'm trying not to tip my hat too much towards the conclusion. But maybe we should talk a little bit about the most divisive thing about the movie, and that's the digital fur.
Right.
So in the Broadway production, obviously there are very elaborate costumes. All the characters are dressed up in cat costumes, essentially, with additional flourishes. In the movie, they decide to, I guess, use motion capture and add digital fur to all the actors. What did you think about that choice?
I understand what they were going for, but I think that they were failed by the technology. I see the vision that they had, but it wasn't executed well. It was as surreal. And honestly, I thought that the animated nature of it, because it does at times look straight animated CG, like everything appears animated on screen, that it takes away from the spectacle of it. Because I was watching it imagining these things happening on a stage in a play. And I'm like, if this were really happening on stage, this, the dancing and the running around and singing, that would all be really impressive. But it just appears animated, and it kind of loses the grandeur of a live stage performance, I think, because it looks fake. A more realistic quality to it, I think it could have worked better than it did, but it didn't work at all, I think.
100%. Yeah, for me, since I hadn't seen the Broadway production, I wasn't in a position where I could compare to what it would have been if it was on stage. I could imagine it,
Mm-hmm.
but you're right. It was very animated in how it presented to me as a viewer. It wasn't just like there were a couple flourishes added in post production. It was basically like you were watching a cartoon with some quasi realistic faces slapped
Yeah.
onto these cartoon bodies. And it took me completely out of enjoying any of the physicality of the performances. There are long portions of the movie where the characters are dancing and I assume doing things that would be impressive acrobatically if I was watching that on stage. But I was just kind of scratching my head wondering how much of this is actually real in that they actually made those like leaps and dance moves and so on and
Yeah.
so forth, or how much of that is just drawn and computer generated. Because if the latter, it's like, why would I enjoy this 5-minute sequence of cartoons dancing? It's not impressive at all.
Yeah. I will say that I thought that the ballet scenes with the Victoria character was good. I liked the ballet, and I thought it was fitting. Like cats are kind of graceful, and I just kind of liked the ballet. But that was not a heavy CG type scene. There were other scenes where, like you said, they're like jumping off walls, and that all would have been way more impressive to see unanimated, essentially. But I did like the ballet dance scenes.
Even the ballet for me, because so much of it was ambiguous in terms of how this was created, I felt like it fell short for me. I was just like, how much of this is real? The whole thing is about watching the people move and being impressed with their grace and the power and just the physicality of it. And all that
Right.
was lost because it's essentially this like grainy CG,
Yeah,
body that you're looking at.
maybe I'm taking it on faith then that it was, actually performed, because it's not like this big grand, she's not doing ballet off the walls or off the roof. It's
Right.
pretty grounded dance form, but like yeah, maybe I'm taking on faith that it was all actually performed. I guess I really don't know, but I assume it was.
The other thing about it for me was that my understanding of why the musical was so popular when it was and why it blew up was the costuming was pretty impressive and grand. And that completely goes away when they're digital cats. And I don't know, there's just something about the realism of being able to see people on stage in costume that is why it's so much more impressive. It was almost like the decision to digitize the bodies took away everything that made this an impressive musical.
I agree. I think that the decision to go with all digital cat fur ruined the movie. I would go that far.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think if you're somebody who came in having seen the musical production and loved it, you could have filled in the blanks in your own mind. But as somebody who's just fresh to the experience of Cats, I was just like, what is this? And it's also not the most accessible musical given how it starts. The Jellicle Cat song is not a great song. I don't think I would imagine it's not in the top 3 most played from the soundtrack. And seeing all these animated cats dance around talking about being jellicles, I was just like, what am I watching and why am I watching this?
One of the things that I've heard said about this movie is that it's more about mood and spectacle than plot. And I think that is true in terms of the lyrics. Like, the music is fun. I liked the music. The lyrics aren't deep, generally speaking, with exceptions.
Yeah, we can get into the music as we walk throughout the movie. Would you say in the first few songs, which did you like the most?
That's a good question. I think that I expected none of them stood out to me, to be honest. But I think that I was pleasantly surprised by James Corden's song. I wasn't. I think that I expected to not like him in the role. I'm not generally a James Corden fan in other things, so I was not expecting to like him in this. But I thought he did fine for not really like a stage actor or a singer that I know of. I think he did fine. I was not into the Rebel Wilson, the kitchen scene.
Gumby Cat.
Yeah, I didn't care for that song that much. I thought it was kind of creepy and weird.
Yeah.
What about you?
Yeah, in this first part, yeah, so we go through Rebel Wilson, Lazy Cat, Jason Derulo, Sexy Cat, I guess, was his claim
Is
to
that Rum
fame.
Tum Tugger?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's supposed to be a sexy hip hop cat or something.
Yeah. And then James Corden, Bustopher Jones, he's the fat cat. And then
Yeah.
we see Mungo Jerry and Rumple Taser,
Which are like cat burglars. They're
cat burglars.
yeah.
Yeah, in those 4, I would say none will be on my repeat playlist. I'm not adding any of those to my Spotify playlist.
Yes. I think we also meet Grisabella in this section here.
We do briefly. She doesn't have a full solo, but we see her creeping through the streets.
And she's like an old grizzled cat that had former days of glory, but has kind of moved past those and is now seen as kind of an outsider.
Yeah, so we're 5 songs in, including the intro, Jellicle Cats, and I'm just like 0 for 5 for me on the music. Can we talk briefly about the sets as well? Because I think this is another thing that I would appreciate a lot more in a live production or even a recording of a live production more so than I would in the movie. They play around with scale in a way that I don't think works very well. Like sometimes the cats are really small compared to their environment. Sometimes they're not. And I just felt like, again, puzzled by some of these choices in terms of how they put the settings together.
I think that I disagree with you on the sets and the scale. I liked the sets. I thought that the sets were one of the highlights of the movie, and I liked the way that they use scale. To me, the scale changes, like you said, which I don't think is necessarily a negative thing. And it also could be intentional because, to you and me, in our daily lives, the scale of things makes sense. But if you're looking at us from space, our scale is completely different. So I think that, their size does change relative to their surroundings, but that could just be we're seeing them from a different perspective at different times of the movie. There's some scenes that are overhead and they're looking down and the cats look really tiny, like running around in the street. And then there are other scenes when it's down on their level that it seems, the scale makes more sense almost to like a human level where it almost seems like they're human sized cats. But then there are times where it pulls out and you see that all of this is happening on a much smaller scale than we're used to as humans. So I thought that the scale kind of worked, and I liked a lot of the scenes. I didn't like the Rebel Wilson song, but I did like the scale of the kitchen set where they're kind of running along the counters and under the table. And I liked that part of it, to be honest.
Yeah, I guess I just felt like it changed too much for my liking in terms of, and it wasn't just that it changed from perspective to perspective. It was that it felt like from set to set, it wasn't consistent about, are these human-sized cats or are these cat-sized humans as cats?
Yeah, I think it kind of gave me like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids vibes at times, and I like that movie, so it reminded me of that. So
they didn't talk about being jellicles in that movie though. So, not apples to apples.
Yeah, I just mean like scale of sets and things. I kind of like that. I like when they play with scale.
Yeah,
you don't see that often in movies, and so I thought it was kind of novel and fun.
Fair enough.
I had very low expectations, so the inconsistency didn't bother me that much.
Yeah. So moving forward, we get to Old Deuteronomy, and this kind of sets up the second act of the movie where we see Dame Judi Dench as Old Deuteronomy. And why don't you, I guess, summarize what she means and what happens in this section of the movie?
Yeah, she's like the matriarch of the Jellicle family. I think they said that she mothered most of the cats that are part of the Jellicle cat crew, but she's getting old and everybody kind of knows that she's kind of hit the end of her time. She's the matriarch of the group, and she chooses the cat to go to the Heaviside lair at the Jellicle ball that they hold, which is the Heaviside lair is where a cat goes basically to end their life and be reborn in a new life with, I believe there's their memories and things like that too. Like they just continue living, but in a new life. So it's like reincarnation, so, in a way.
It took me a while to really understand fully the arc of what they were talking about. Essentially, the whole movie, they each want to be picked to get killed so that they get reincarnated, right? I mean, that's what it is.
Yeah, they want to be picked to end their street life and start a new life and hope that it's better than the one that they're in.
It was a little incongruous for me because it seemed like some of the cats seemed to really enjoy their lives, but they wanted to be picked at the Jellicle ball. And so I didn't really understand what was happening. And also,
you can enjoy your life and still want something better.
I guess so. And not to bring too many of my own religious biases here, but I was kind of like, that's bullshit, right? Like, is Old Deuteronomy just killing these cats? Like, is this a cult or what is happening here? It sounds like a cult. We're all Jellicles, and the cult leader is going to pick one of us to get reincarnated.
Pass around the Kool-Aid.
Exactly. I mean, it was hard for me to get invested in the story because of that perspective that I think my biases brought to it.
Yeah, it is kind of an unconventional hierarchy and system they've got in this Jellicle cult.
Yeah, so I wasn't rooting for any of them to get picked. I was like, no, you don't listen to Judi Dench.
That's a fair perspective. Yeah.
By the way, I especially felt like when I saw Judi Dench on screen, I was like, why did they do this to her? Like just seeing digital, like half digital Judi Dench just made me sad. I don't know. That pained me more than any other character.
I completely disagree. Uh, I, it wasn't that I enjoyed suffering. I thought that it was fun to see Dame Judi Dench and Sir Ian McKellen having fun with roles that like are way outside of their normal what you expect from them. I thought that they were having fun with it, to be honest.
She did not look like she was having fun. She looked like she was going to cry the whole time. Now, the character was sad.
Yeah, I think that I thought she was just playing the character well.
I felt like she was playing the character well, but also channeling her sadness at being in this movie.
She didn't have to be.
And being dressed in this digital lion costume that looked out of proportion. Like
Yeah.
you saw, like her legs looked weird in it. I don't know. It looked very unnatural and weird to me.
Well, she wouldn't know during production that they're gonna biff it on the costuming in post.
She is wise beyond her years, so maybe she saw the signs
But
of
she
where
still
this was
signed the
going.
contract to
Exactly.
be in it.
It was too late. She already received her check, so she couldn't back out of it.
Nah, I thought that it was fun to see kind of these established older actors having fun with like a silly role.
Yeah.
I don't think they thought this was going to win an Oscar. They just wanted to be in Cats.
We can probably skip ahead to McCavity. Do you want to talk about that character? And
yeah, I'm kind of hazy on McCavity. It was played by Idris Elba. He's kind of the antagonist of the story. He has dark magic or something that he can do. I didn't understand really what he was doing. I thought he was killing the characters that had been. So there are a number of cats that are kind of candidates to be selected for the Heaviside layer, and he was among them, but there were other candidates, Rebel Wilson's character and
everybody that had a solo.
Yeah, at the beginning.
were they were essentially auditioning for Old Deuteronomy to get picked.
Yeah, and so his plan as the antagonist is to essentially kidnap all of the other candidates to be chosen and take them and keep them chained up on a steamship or something in the River Thames. But he would just disappear with them, and it wasn't really explained where they were going.
Some barge.
I thought he was killing them or something, but yeah, he was just kidnapping them, and his plan was to be the only remaining candidate so that he must be selected for the Heaviside layer,
which is a plot that a fifth grader probably would put together of let me kidnap everybody in the talent show and I'll be the only one left for you to pick.
Yeah, they'll have to choose me.
But this again, I was confused because McCavity seemed very powerful. He was able to disappear at will, and
yeah,
he also wanted Old Deuteronomy to kill him so he could go to heaven and reincarnate. But why? Like, he's already the most powerful cat in the Jellicle world. Why does he want this?
I don't know. I don't understand his motivations at all. They all seem to want to die.
Yeah. I know that it's probably unfair to analyze the plot too much. Like, this isn't a movie you watch for the plot. You're watching it for the musical numbers and the performances. But it was a little confusing to me.
How did you? So this section is where Taylor Swift is introduced. She just has a brief, kind of a single song, and then she's in the background of some other scenes. But how did you like her song?
She's a henchman for McCavity.
Yeah,
I thought she did well. I thought her song was pretty good. So we can talk a little bit more about the music. I felt like the second half of songs were a lot better than the first half. Again, the first half just turned me off because they were all like, here's me, I'm the fat cat. Here's me, I'm a lazy cat. And
it's exposition.
Exactly. A lot of exposition. There was some of that in the second half, I really, we find Skimbleshanks, the railway cat, and he talks about being a railway cat. I was like, okay,
I liked Skimbleshanks.
oh my gosh. I was like, I'm definitely not banging this in the car, driving down the highway, listening to Skimbleshanks. I mean, if you like that song, that's fine.
If you're so insecure that you can't play cats in your car, that's that's a choice.
I mean, I'm not going to yuck your yum, but Skimbleshanks is not my jam. But all that I was going to say is we get the real banger of the movie, which is Memory, and
Yeah.
probably the most famous song from this production. Before watching this, I'd heard the song before, but I couldn't have told you this is what it was from. When Grisabella starts singing Memory, I'm like, oh, okay, I recognize this. And we actually get two renditions of Memory. She does kind of a short, short edit, and then the full extended cut where she really bangs it out. And I was like, damn, this is awesome.
Yeah, I loved Memory, and then the song that was added for Victoria, Beautiful Ghosts, I think.
Yeah, Beautiful Ghost. That was the one that Taylor Swift wrote.
Yeah,
that was
incredible.
Yeah, that was my second favorite.
Yeah, I was like heartbroken at the lyrics. It was so good. Memory is basically a song about remembering back on your past glory and that it's all gone now, kind of, but it lives on in your memories. And then Victoria's song back to her was like, at least you had the good times. Like,
right.
Yeah, you have these beautiful ghosts in your past that you can at least still look back on. And she never had that. She just wanted to be lucky enough to have the good experience. I thought that was like so emotional and really well done. And the performance, Jennifer Hudson is incredible, I think, in anything. But the actress who played Victoria, Francesca Hayward, this was her first singing experience, as far as I know, and she did really good.
Yeah, it seems like her background was as a ballerina.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure she's acted before, but I'm not positive on that. And in movies and things, I know she does the ballerina stuff. But yeah, for what seemed like a relative newcomer, her performance was really good.
Yeah, those were by far my two favorite songs. And then the one that Taylor Swift sang, maybe my third favorite. She's just obviously a great performer.
I had some issues with Taylor Swift's performance, though.
Oh, yeah?
I did not like the British accent. I thought that it came and went and was a little like hit or miss. And I thought it would have just been better if she sang it in her natural singing voice instead of trying to affect this British accent.
Sure.
And I also thought that Idris Elba, he's not a great singer. He was good. He was fine. But like, for the Taylor Swift big number, I kind of expected to like it more than I did.
Yeah. I think for me, not just the performances of Memory and Beautiful Ghost, but to what you said in terms of the meaning behind those songs, they seemed just a lot deeper and more meaningful than all the other songs of, hey, I'm a lazy cat. Hey, I'm a cat that lives on a train. I don't know. Those are not my songs.
If they had written a whole play around that premise of those two songs, Beautiful Ghosts and Memory, you would have an incredible play.
Oh yeah.
I don't have an issue with them kind of shoehorning it into this otherwise silly, fantastic play, but it does seem like those two songs are certainly outliers in terms of like their overall impact.
Again, we get Memory twice. That's how they, not only is it a banger, but they know it's a banger. They're like, how can we do this twice?
Do you remember this one from earlier?
Yeah, exactly. From 15 minutes ago, we're going to do it again and for longer.
Yeah.
So
it's still good the second time though.
Yeah. But it comes more than halfway through the movie. And like, if you were going to write Cats from scratch, just start with that. And then I would stay in my chair waiting for another song like that.
Yeah.
So because it's such a great song, old Deuteronomy picks her to die and get sent up to the Heaviside Heaven.
Yes. And a more deserving candidate, maybe there isn't one. I can't think of one.
Well, certainly not in that production of Jellicle.
Yeah, maybe
auditions
there
that
was
we
a
heard.
cat that we didn't get introduced to that was more deserving. We didn't meet all the cats.
Yeah, maybe maybe one of them will sing Memory next year and get picked. They just
it
need to
just be- it becomes like an old classic in the Jellicle world that everybody gives it a go every year to try to get picked.
whoever can belt out the solo best
Yeah.
gets to die.
Yeah.
So that takes us to the end of the movie, basically. What other notes did you have?
I love Ian McKellen, but I thought that he struggled singing his song about he was like this old stage cat. Gus, I think was his name.
Gus, yeah.
Gus the theater cat. He's like this old cat that's been around forever and seen everything, and he's kind of this stage cat. Like he's this old theater cat, and he's singing about past glory and stuff. I thought the song and the lyrics were up there in terms of like, oh, this has emotional impact and meaning. But I thought he struggled with the singing, and I don't hold that against him by any means. But yeah, I was kind of sad to see him struggle to sing, but maybe it's fitting for his character.
Maybe. I did have a note on there was a scene where he had been captured by McCavity and transported to that barge on the Thames, and McCavity has a henchman, Growl Tiger, and
Yeah.
Gus and James Corden and Rebel Wilson all fight the henchman, and it's just a very weird fight scene. And my note was this supposed to be funny? Where Gus just growls at the henchman and the henchman falls overboard.
Yeah.
It was weird.
But he chases him out on the catwalk, right? And he ends up falling off the end after he growls at him.
Yeah, it was a weird sequence for me.
Yeah, it didn't work that well. I thought that this, and maybe I'm being optimistic, but I thought that this would be a fun movie to work on. Demanding for sure, but like it must have felt like working on a stage performance to some degree. And I don't know, I think that it was probably kind of a fun project, but the result was failed by the CG, I think.
I had a lot of small notes like, why do some cats have shoes?
I noticed that. What a there was the one that was breakdancing had shoes, and I'm thinking that was just a choice for the dancing. I also noticed that there were other cats that, you know, when they would lay down or like move, you could see that they CG'd shoes off their feet, or they had like socks or something on, like some sort of grippy thing. And you could tell it was not consistent CG, that like in certain angles or movements, you could see them like CGing out these socks or slippers or whatever and putting human feet back in, which was weird. The feet weren't consistent.
No, I saw some note that in the first cut of the movie, they had left in Judi Dench's watch and human hand and had to fix that later and give her a paw.
That's funny.
So maybe some of the shoes and the feet stuff were just mistakes in the edit.
They needed another year to finish the post processing on this movie.
Yeah, some of the green screen stuff too, I didn't like at all. Or it was really just a question of, was it green screen? So
Yeah.
the Skimbleshanks Railway Cat sequence there, I made a note there. I can't remember what shot it was now, but it just looked like really cheap 1980s green screen. And maybe that's one of those spots where when they decided to do that, it really skewed with the aspect ratio of the scale. And it was maybe me noticing things like that bugged me.
Yeah, that could be. It was visually inconsistent.
At one point I wrote, I wish I did drugs. I think if I was high, this movie would have been a lot more enjoyable.
Yeah, I think that you are not wrong about that at all.
It would be very trippy if you're already tripping.
Yeah, it would be a lot of fun. I think if you're in the right mood for it, like if you're there for the vibes, it is fun. It's a fun movie. It's a lot of spectacle.
Yeah, and
well,
again,
let me rephrase that. The play is a lot of spectacle and fun. The movie is not much fun or spectacle-y.
This is probably another instance where watching the Broadway production with an audience, with a crowd, with people that you enjoy being around might make it a lot more fun. Watching this as a movie alone in your basement is probably not the right way to enjoy Cats.
Right.
So let me ask you this: how do you think about, in general, watching recorded performances versus live performances? Like whether it's a concert or a play or musical, how often does that work for you watching recordings?
I think that it generally works for me. So, like a couple examples, I've seen Rent, I've seen the producers, both the movie and the live performance, and I love both. I think that the movie performance has to be a better, like tighter package though than the stage. I think that like there's a little bit more margin of error with stage because it's a live performance that like you can have some small imperfections. But I think when you do a movie on what is essentially a beloved franchise, or it's not really a franchise, but a beloved topic or beloved play, uh, it needs to be better than this was to keep the core people that are going to go see it because it's Cats. Like I think that most people that go to see this already were into Cats, the play, and it doesn't live up to that spectacle wise. I think in this instance, I think that other instances like the producers and Rent that I've seen work really well, both in movie and in play form.
We've already sort of touched on this earlier in the discussion, but what's your overall verdict for Cats, the movie?
I liked it. I had a good time. I had so
Okay.
much fun. Yeah, I thought that the different cats and their personalities were kind of cute. You didn't like them, the Jellicle stuff at the beginning, but I was watching it and I'm just trying to imagine like T.S. Eliot writing a funny thing down in his notepad about this cat that just walked by that like, oh, that's, a fancy lazy cat, or, like I thought it was just kind of cute and funny to imagine somebody taking the time to write all of this about just cats that they know. I like the sets and the scale. I know you didn't, but I thought the songs were fine. They're lighthearted. The music. There's nothing wrong with the music. The context of, or the content of the lyrics was kind of lame, but the music was good.
Yeah.
The ballet was good. I thought Francesca Hayward did a really good job. Beautiful Ghosts. The song was incredible. Memory was incredible. And so like, whether you think that this is just a movie a story about funny cats, or you think there's some deeper message there, I think that both can be true. And so you can get both of those things out of it if that's what you go in looking for. If you go in expecting it to be a deep story, you're mostly going to be disappointed, but it is there. And I thought that it was nice to see, Dame Judi and Sir Ian having fun, which I thought they were having fun. I don't know if they were, but I liked it. I went in for the experience and the vibes, and I knew it was probably weak on story going in. So I just went in expecting very little and had a pretty good time. I would watch it again.
Okay. How would you rate it on a out of 5 stars? Are you giving it 5 stars?
Geez, no, 2. Are we talking about in terms of bad movies, or are we talking about all movies overall?
No, movies overall. It sounds like you
2.
enjoyed it. Okay. I mean, I wasn't expecting that. I mean, you just got done talking about how much you loved the movie, and
I know.
then you give it 2 out of 5 stars.
Well, so here's the thing: the visual experience of this movie is completely ruined, I think.
Yeah.
The performances are really good. Like I know that those were real people singing and dancing, and that they can actually do all those things because they did it for decades on Broadway. So I know that like the performance is fine.
Yeah.
It's the visuals of the weird cat fur, and it like for you it seems like the sets and the scaling, like the visual effects of this movie completely failed the substance that is there, and there's not a ton of substance there to begin with.
So, would you change your rating if you didn't know who these actors were, and you didn't know that you didn't know anything about the Broadway production and the history of the Broadway production? If you were just like, oh, if I had shown this to you and I said, this is our local community college, put this on. It was written by a student there this year. would that change your rating?
No, because I think that, I mean, I'd believe you that it was a college level effort on the visuals. But if Jennifer Hudson is singing Memory at your community theater, then sign me up,
Yeah.
because like I thought that, there's nothing really wrong with the performance. The story is what it is. It's a lighthearted musical. I wasn't expecting, I like old Elvis movies, which is, the story is meaningless in 90%
Yeah.
of those. So that's not a problem for me.
Yeah. I mean, I yeah, for my part, like I said earlier, I know it's unfair to judge it on the story or even the lyrical content. I think I'm trying to come at it with an open mind in terms of rating the movie based on what type of movie it is. I even enjoy watching some Bollywood movies. I watched a lot of those when I was a kid growing up, and
Yeah.
even not even understanding the language and just enjoying the singing and the spectacle. Like I can enjoy performances for what they are. But yeah, for
Yeah.
me, this is a 1-star movie. I was in near physical pain in the first half of the movie. I paused it several times and looked at its 2.5 hour runtime. Was that how long it was? It was 2 hours or so. It
It
felt
was
very
long.
long. Yeah, like I said, Memory was a banger. I loved that song. I loved the performance. That came way too late in the movie. The rest of it, for the most part, I could take or leave Skimble Shanks and the rest of the crew.
That's fair.
So we like to wrap up the podcast by giving our alternate picks. It sounds like you you like this well enough, but what alternate picks would you have for either similar genre or theme or some of the actors, director? What are your alternate picks?
My pick for this movie is Tick Tick Boom. I don't know if you've heard of it.
I have. I have not watched it.
It's it's really good. It's the directorial debut for Lin-Manuel Miranda. It has Andrew Garfield. Andrew Garfield plays Jonathan Larson, who wrote all of the Broadway play Rent. And this is kind of the insight into his kind of creative process during that time. And I love Rent. It's like a meaningful play for me. I've listened to it since I was a teenager, and like getting this look into kind of the man behind it was really good. And Andrew Garfield is incredible in it. And if you like musical theater, you'll like Tick Tick Boom, and it's got all the like heart and emotion that this lacks.
Nice. I kind of had fun with my alternate picks. I have two. One
Okay.
is when I was searching Netflix for cats, it also recommended the 2019 documentary from the same year. 2019 documentary Don't Fuck with Cats. Did you watch that?
Yeah. Yeah. I
I was
like that.
reminded of that. It was a very gripping documentary about a group of people on the internet who saw a video of somebody killing two kittens, and then it unraveled a really dark story from there. And I really enjoyed that documentary.
Internet justice.
Yes. And then my second pick is BoJack Horseman. Did you ever watch that?
I haven't watched a ton of it. I have friends that are really into it though.
BoJack Horseman has a lot of references to the musical Cats because one of the main characters, Princess Carolyn, is a cat, and she actually has Jellicle Cats, the song, as her ringtone at certain points. And I'm realizing now after watching Cats that there are all sorts of references in BoJack Horseman that I probably didn't understand because I didn't know that they were from the musical Cats. So now I want to rewatch that.
I didn't
But
know that.
yeah, so those are my two alternate picks. I cheated a little bit because they clearly don't have anything to do,
Not even
much to
another
do.
musical.
Yeah, let's just leave it as those two picks.
Okay.
Like I said, I'm not a musical person, so maybe I'm not the right person to be recommending musicals.
Fair enough.
By the way, before we end this, can I ask how much of your love of cats is because you're soon to be cat dad or want to be cat dad?
I would say 30%. I was thinking about it during while I was watching. I was like, oh, this guy was looking at all these cats that are slinking around. Like, I can imagine those kinds of cats.
So you're in the pre-honeymoon
Yeah.
phase of cat ownership, and so that endeared you to all the jellicles. So we have 4 cats in our house right now, so maybe I'm a little
You're
cynical about
catted out.
cats. Yeah, exactly. That's why I don't need to hear about any more cats.
Yeah, fair.
All right. Well, I think that's all we can say about cats for today. I'm Ade.
And I'm Aaron. Thanks for listening.